Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Slack Talk. In today's episode, I will talk about the three clusters in the DSM-5 of personality disorders. We have cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C. And I will, go over each cluster and the difference among the clusters and the difference among the personality disorders in each cluster. And so, let's get into it. Personality disorders are a long-term ways of interacting with the world. And so people with personality disorders, they usually can't radically change their personalities. What they can do though is change some of the behaviors so that they can actually have interpersonal relationships because they're kind of disliked by society and judged by society and pushed away from other people. Usually they don't really have many friends or they're disliked by people. And so some of them may go to therapy to change some of the behaviors so that they can be liked a little bit more. Okay, so I will start with cluster A, which is characterized by social withdrawal, odd and eccentric behavior. So to remember the personality disorders in cluster A, I use this acronym, which is Palm Springs Summers. So the P stands for paranoid personality disorder. The S stands for schizoid personality disorder. And the other S stands for schizotypal personality disorder. So let's start with paranoid personality disorder. So people with paranoid personality disorder, they are suspicious of everybody in their life. Doesn't matter who you are. They're distrustful of everybody. They constantly think that people are trying to fuck them over. They think people are just out to get me. Like they are always trying to get something from me. They just don't trust anybody and they're paranoid about it. So they literally hyper aware or constantly concentrating on what people are telling them. So basically, when let's say they're talking to people, they're quite literally thinking, okay, what is this person trying to get out of me? And so again, they're quite literally paranoid. And what I want to do is to read the diagnostic criteria for you in the DSM-5 so that you have a better explanation of how this paranoid personality disorder might present. But again, it's a person that distrusts everybody, is suspicious of everybody. Everybody's out to get them. Everybody's trying to fuck them over. Can't trust anybody, etc., etc. Okay, so I have this DSM-5 here. It's pretty big. I love it, by the way. And so let's get into it. Paranoid personality disorder, diagnostic criteria. A pervasive distrust and suspiciousness of others, such as their motives are interpreted as malevolent, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by four or more of the following. Okay, let's turn page. Okay. 1. Suspects without sufficient basis that others are exploiting, harming, or deceiving him or her. 2. Is preoccupied with unjustified doubts about the loyalty or trustworthiness of friends or associates. 3. Is reluctant to confide in others because of unwanted fear that the information will be used maliciously against him or her. 4. Reads hidden demeaning or threatening meanings into benign remarks or events. 5. Persistently bears grudges. Example is unforgiving of insults, injuries, or slights. 6. Perceives attacks on his or her character or reputation that are not apparent to others and is quick to react angrily or to counterreact. 7. Has recurrent suspicions without justification regarding fidelity of spouse or sexual partners. And so, that's how a person with paranoid personality disorder may appear. And again, it's very hard for them to change their behavior because they're treatment resistant. They're not really gonna trust the therapist. Although you know, someone always tries to have help. Okay, let's continue with cluster A. So the next one I want to talk about is schizoid personality disorder. So a person with schizoid personality disorder is socially withdrawal. They are emotionally detached from people. They don't really form emotional attachments. They don't want to be in relationships. They don't really care about having relationships. They don't care about having friends or interacting with people and socializing. And again, I kind of want to make sure that you guys understand that that's not like an introvert type of person, because introverts are just, they love being with some friends and they love talking to, specific people. They might not want to like talk to everybody and like, oh, I have to, socialize and blah blah blah. But people with schizoid personality disorder are quite literally emotionally detached. Like they couldn't care less about like wanting to be with people at all, like romantic relationship, friendship, family. They like activities that are kind of like lonely activities, if that makes sense. And so I will refer to you the diagnostic criteria for schizoid personality disorder. Okay, let's get into it. A pervasive pattern of detachment from social relationships and a restricted range of expression of emotions in interpersonal settings, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by four or more of the following. One, neither desires nor enjoys close relationships, including being part of a family. Two, almost always chooses solitary activities. Three, has little, if any, interest in having sexual experiences with another person. Four, takes pleasure in few, if any, activities. Five, lacks close friends or confidence other than first degree relatives. Six, appears indifferent to the praise of or criticisms of others. Seven, shows emotional coldness, detachment, or latent affectivity. Yeah, that is schizoid personality disorder. And now let's get into schizotypal personality disorder. So, schizotypal personality disorder is that person who looks odd, eccentric, and maybe they are, wearing a very unique, peculiar type of outfit. And it's not, that person that is creative and they're, they like their creative outfit, but it's that person that's like, whoa, like everything is like odd about them. And it's what's the word? Prodromal for schizophrenia. So people with schizophrenia, they quite literally sound, look, or start acting like a person that has schizotypal personality disorder. But people with schizotypal personality disorder, they don't end up having schizophrenia. So they stay in that state, if that makes sense. And so that's how people with schizophrenia look like at the beginning of their um, psychotic symptoms. And so I'll give an example. My professor, she told me that she had a client with schizotypal personality disorder who will enter the office walking with their hands, and he or she will always have like a toothbrush like hanging in their mouth or something. And so that's what we mean by like kind of odd and eccentric. And they have this like magical thinking, and they are very um, like they believe in superstitions, but it's not like cultural that there's some people that are like superstitious, or maybe because it's they're influenced by their parents. It's like another type of superstitions. It's like they make it up, if that makes sense. So let me read to you the diagnostic criteria for schizotypal personality disorder. Okay. A pervasive pattern of social and interpersonal deficits marked by acute discomfort with and reduced capacity for those relationships, as well as by cognitive or perceptual distortions and eccentricities of behavior, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following. 1. Ideas of reference, excluding delusions of reference. 2. Odd beliefs or magical thinking that influences behavior and is inconsistent with subcultural norms. Example, superstitiousness, belief in clairvoyance, telepathy, or sixth sense, bizarre fantasies or perturbations. 3. Unusual perceptual experiences, including bodily illusions. 4. Odd thinking and speech, example, vague, circumstantial, metaphorical, over elaborate or stereotyped. 5. Suspiciousness or paranoid ideation. 6. Inappropriate or constricted affect. 7. Behavior or appearance that is odd, eccentric, or peculiar. 8. Lack of close friends or confidence other than first-degree relatives. 9. Excessive social anxiety that does not diminish with familiarity and tends to be associated with paranoid fears rather than negative judgments about self. And these people are also very anxious. Like they're very anxious they're very anxious around people. And it doesn't matter if they know that person for a very long time, they are still going to be anxious about that person. So yeah, this is cluster A in the DSM, which again, cluster A is represented by eccentric, odd, social withdrawal personalities. And in cluster A, we have 3 personality disorders: paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypal personality disorder. Okay, now let's get into cluster B. So cluster B personality disorders are very dramatic, emotional, volatile, and they engage in these erratic behaviors. So an acronym for cluster B will be abnormal hair. So the A stands for antisocial personality disorder. The B stands for borderline personality disorder. The N stands for narcissistic personality disorder. And then we have the hair component, which is histrionic personality disorder.
So cluster B has 4 personality disorders and cluster A has 3. Okay, so let's start with antisocial personality disorder. So you might know antisocial personality disorder already because they're like sociopaths and psychopaths. So it's a person that has no regard for other people, does not feel guilty for her own actions, even if it costs other people emotional well-being or physical well-being. They're very impulsive. What else? I mean, it's literally like a psychopath or a sociopath. They don't care. They don't care, and they are kind of rebels. They are against like laws. They don't follow rules. They break rules constantly. And so now we'll read to you the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder. So let's get into it. A pervasive pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others occurring since age 15, as indicated by 3 or more of the following. 1. Failure to conform to social norms with respect to lawful behaviors, as indicated by repeatedly performing acts that are grounds for arrest. 2. Deceitful. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was recording because I'm like just talking by myself and I have to record this all over again. Okay. Number 2. Deceitfulness, as indicated by repeated lying, use of aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. 3. Impulsivity or failure to plan ahead. 4. Irritability and aggressiveness, as indicated by repeated physical fights or assaults. 5. Reckless disregard for safety of self or others. 6. Consistent irresponsibility, as indicated by repeated failure to sustain consistent work behavior or honor financial obligations. 7. Lack of remorse, as indicated by being indifferent to or rationalizing having hurt, mistreated, or stolen from another. And the individual is at least age 18 years. So a person with if you want to diagnose someone with a social personality disorder, they have to be at least 18. But we have conduct disorder and other like early childhood disorders that you can diagnose people with if they meet some like these criteria, but you can diagnose officially someone with antisocial personality disorder unless they're 18 or older. And there is evidence of conduct disorder with onset before age 15 years. Indeed, the occurrence of antisocial personality disorder is not exclusively during the course of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Okay. So, again, this person is the usual psychopath or sociopath. They might they're kind of like on a spectrum. They're not on a spectrum, but it's kind of on a spectrum in the sense that you have that on type of person, and then you have the murder. And so yeah, it's your usual psychopath. Now let's get into borderline personality disorder. I I just know someone who has borderline personality disorder, so I'm very like I just feel for them like a lot. And so yeah, just feel very sorry. Like I truly like it makes me feel sad about thinking people with borderline personality disorder because they have experienced a lot of adverse childhood events, and literally they have experienced a childhood that was like chaotic and abusive, and so yeah, no wonder they're like that. Like no wonder they're the way they are. Although of course it's a combination of genetic and environment. But yeah, how does a person with borderline personality disorder look like? So they look like whew, they're extremely emotionally unstable. So they can be extremely happy one second and then the other second extremely sad. They have this black and white thinking. They might idolize someone and think, oh my gosh, this person is so amazing. Like, it's the best person I've ever met. And then, like, 5 seconds later, oh, he is a, you know, piece of shit. That person is like crazy. I don't like that person. I hate that person. So, from liking someone and think they're amazing to like disliking someone, like, after a couple of minutes or an hour or whatever, if they do or say something that they didn't like or took personally, they have this deep fear of abandonment. So they will self sabotage relationships. They will self sabotage themselves and relationships because they have this deep fear of abandonment. And so they think, oh my gosh, everybody's going to leave me, everybody is going to abandon me. And then they sabotage that. And it's like self fulfilling prophecy. They're very impulsive. So they might spend their paycheck in like a day or something, or engage in reckless driving, or um, engage in like a lot of sex. Yeah. Mm. So that's how a person with borderline personality disorder looks like. And now I will read to you the diagnostic criteria for it. A pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image and affects, and marked impulsivity beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts as indicated by 5 or more of the following. So yeah, again, like they don't really have a self-image. It's like almost shattered. It's like broken. They might be that one person that changes job or career or goal every like week because they're trying to find who am I? They're trying to find who they are, And yeah. So number one, frenetic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. Two, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. Again, they idealization is the thing, oh my gosh, this person is so great. And then evaluation is like, oh, I hate that person. That person is awful. 3. Identity disturbance, markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self. Impulsivity. 4. Impulsivity in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging. Example, spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating. 5. Recurrent suicidal behaviors, gestures or threats or self-mutilating behavior. They will try to commit suicide to get attention, or it's like an extreme way to see whether or not people care about them. And many times it's not like they do not succeed in you know attempting suicide, but because their goal is to like get the attention and see whether or not people care, but sometimes it can happen not on purpose. Number 6, affective instability due to a marked reactivity of mood, intense episodic dysphoria, irritability, or anxiety, usually lasting a few hours and only rarely more than a few days. 7, chronic feelings of emptiness. Yeah, like they have this void inside of them that like they can't fill in with like anything. They can't fill in with food. They can't fill in with drugs. They can't fill in with sex, a hug. So imagine feeling empty and a void 24/7 and trying desperately to like fill it in with something. I mean, no wonder they act this way. They were not loved when they were children. They probably had parents who were abusive, again, unloving, cold. Yeah. Well, anyway. Number 8, inappropriate intense anger, or difficulty controlling anger. Example, frequent displays of temper, clustered anger, recurrent physical fights. Yeah, they're very they get triggered very easily. So they might take things personally, very often. Number 9, transient stress-related paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms. By the way, I did a whole episode on borderline personality disorder, more in depth if you're interested in watching it. Yeah, so that's how BPD looks like. Now, let's go to narcissistic, or let's do histrionic personality disorder first. I need to drink water. My voice is cracking. Right, so how does a person with histrionic personality disorder look like? So they crave attention always. They need approval from others. They're very dramatic. They believe easily in what other people say to them as well. And yeah, they need constant approval, constant attention, and they're very sexual as well. So they will try to seduce like anybody. And yeah, so I will read you the diagnostic criteria for histrionic personality disorder. Amber Heard, top of girl, by the way. I mean, okay, she was diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder. So yeah, you need a reference. Okay, so a pervasive pattern of excessive emotionality and attention seeking beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts as indicated by 5 or more of the following. 1. Is uncomfortable in situations in which he or she is not the center of attention. 2. Interaction with others is often characterized by inappropriate sexually seductive or provocative behavior. 3. Displays rapidly shifting and shallow expression of emotions. 4. Constantly uses physical appearance to draw attention to self. 5. Has a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic and lacking in detail. 6. Shows self-dramatization, theatricality, theatricality, and exaggerated expression of emotion. 7. Is suggestible, easily influenced by others or circumstances. 8. Considers relationships to be more intimate than they actually are. Yeah, so that is the histrionic personality disorder. Now, what are we missing? Narcissism. We're missing narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, we all know how a narcissist looks like. Again, they, like histrionic personality disorders, they want attention to themselves, always. They're actually deeply insecure people. They have quite literally a broken ego. And they are trying so hard to overcompensate that. They will appear fake. I mean, they will try to fake the confidence because it's not real confidence. And so I will read to you the diagnostic criteria for it. A pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, need for admiration, and a lack of empathy, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts that is indicated by 5 or more of the following. 1. Has a grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerates achievements and talents, and expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements. So imagine you're a loser, but you want to still be praised as someone who's successful, that's a narcissist. 2. Is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. 3. Believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. 4. Requires excessive admiration. 5. Has a sense of entitlement and reasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. Just making sure I'm recording. Yeah. 6. Is interpersonally exploitative, takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. 7. Lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. 8. Is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her. 9. Shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. The classic narcissist. Now, we're done with cluster B, so let's move on to cluster C. Okay, so how do people in cluster C look like? So they are extremely anxious. They are fearful of social rejection, and they have this feeling of inadequacy. And an acronym that you can use to remember this cluster C personality disorder is dead on arrival. So D stands for dependent personality disorder. The O stands for obsessive compulsive personality disorder, not to be confused with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. They're different and similar at the same time, but people with OCD do not have a personality disorder. And again, this is a personality disorder, OCPD. And then the A stands for avoidant personality disorder. So let's get into it. So a person with avoidant personality disorder has social anxiety. They are sensitive to like social rejection, and they have a lot of social inhibition. So a person with schizoid personality disorder is kind of similar to a person with avoidant personality disorder, but the reason why they are isolated and lonely and avoid social interactions is because of different reasons. So a person with schizoid personality disorder, they don't care. They're like, nah, I don't want to. I don't care. Avoidant personality disorder, they um, they crave. Um, I mean, they want to, but they feel so inadequate that they're anxious and scared to do so. And so I will read to you now the diagnostic criteria for it. So, a pervasive pattern of social inhibition, feelings of inadequacy, and hypersensitivity to negative evaluation, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by four or more of the following. 1. Avoids occupational activities that involve significant interpersonal contact because of fears of criticism, disapproval, or rejection. 2. Is unwilling to get involved with people unless certain of being liked. 3. Shows restraint within intimate relationships because of the fear of being shamed or ridiculed. 4. Is preoccupied with being criticized or rejected in social situations. 5. Is inhibited in new interpersonal situations because of feelings of inadequacy. 6. Views self as socially inept, personally unappealing, or inferior to others. 7. Is unusually reluctant to take personal risks or to engage in any new activities because they may prove embarrassing. And so, again, a person with avoidant personality disorder, they're usually like lonely people or like loners, but mainly because they fear the social rejection. And again, not to confuse people with these personality disorders with people who actually were not socialized when they were little, or not to confuse a person with schizotypal personality disorder with someone who actually is just a little bit weird. They're kind of different. Personality disorders are very like more severe. Some people are just unique and a little bit, odd sometimes, but that doesn't mean that they have a personality disorder. Okay, now, so what did we do? Oh, we did avoidant personality disorder. So now we can do dependent personality disorder. So what is dependent personality disorder? As the name suggests, is quality of a person that needs to be told what to do. It needs to depend on someone. As probably you guys know, the Mendes brothers, one of the brothers had antisocial personality disorder, and the other brother had dependent personality disorder. So people with dependent personality disorder, they may fall prey to people who are either narcissists or psychopaths or sociopaths because, I mean, it's like easy to target them. They, they need approval, they need um, the other person. And so I will read to you, they're very submissive, but I will read to you the diagnosis here. So a pervasive and excessive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive and clinging behavior, and fears of separation, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts as indicated by 5 or more of the following. 1. Has difficulty in making everyday decisions without an excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. So yeah, they're always asking for advice. Should I do this, should I do that? And they need reassurance from others. But again, it's not like a person that's kind of insecure and needs advice from people. Like, this is a personality disorder, so it's exaggerated. Okay, number 2, needs others to assume responsibility for most major areas of his or her life. 3, has difficulty expressing disagreement with others because of fear of loss of fear of loss of support or approval. And again, if you're kind of have an insecure attachment, you might have some of these traits, but it doesn't mean that you have dependent personality disorder. It just means that you haven't maybe worked on your childhood wounds, and you might have these traits because of it, your insecure attachment that you had when you were a child with your primary caregiver, but that doesn't mean that you have this personality. You can actually like change your behavior and work on, the healing, etc. Okay, number 4, has difficulty initiating projects or doing things on his or her own because of a lack of self-confidence in judgment or abilities rather than a lack of motivation or energy. 5, Goes to excessive lengths to obtain nurturance and support from others, to the point of volunteering to do things that are unpleasant. 6. Feels uncomfortable or helpless when alone because of exaggerated fears of being unable to take care for himself or herself. 6. Feels uncomfortable or helpless when alone because of exaggerated fears of being unable to care for himself or herself. 7. Urgently seeks another relationship as a source of care and support when a close relationship ends. 8. Is unrealistically preoccupied with fears of being left to take care of himself or herself. All right, that was dependent personality disorder. Now, last one on the list, we have OCPD, obsessive compulsive personality disorder. People with OCPD, they quite literally are, so they are perfectionists and they are super controlling when it comes to like their things at the expense of like relationships or you know, at the expense of being flexible. They're not flexible. Things have to be a certain way, the way they want it. There's no compromise. And so now I'll read to you the diagnostic criteria for OCPD. And again, this is not obsessive compulsive disorder. This is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So it looks a little bit different. People with OCD, they have obsessions and compulsions, and they have to repeat it. That they have to like repeat the compulsions, otherwise they have anxiety. Whereas people that have OCPD, they quite literally have very strict they have very strict rules and there's no flexibility in it. So, okay, let me read you the diagnostic criteria for it. So, a pervasive pattern of preoccupation with orderliness, perfectionism, and mental and interpersonal control at the expense of flexibility, openness, and efficiency, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 4 or more of the following. 1. Is preoccupied with details, rules, list, order, organization, or schedules to the extent that the major point of the activity is lost. 2. Shows perfectionism that interferes with task completion. Example, is unable to complete a project because his or her own overly strict standards are not met. 3. Is excessively devoted to work and productivity to the exclusion of leisure activities and friendships, not accounted for by obvious economic necessity. 4. Is over-conscientious, scrupulous, and inflexible about matters of morality, ethics, or values, not accounted for by cultural or religious identification. 5. Is unable to discard worn out or worthless objects even when they have no sentimental value. 6. Is reluctant to delegate tasks or to work with others unless they submit to exactly his or her way of doing things. 7. Adopts a miserly spending style toward both self and others. Money is viewed as something to be ordered for future catastrophes. 8. Shows rigidity and stubbornness. And so, yeah, that's how a person with OCPD looks like. And that was the end of cluster C. So again, as a summary, the DSM contains 3 different clusters for personality disorders. We have cluster A, which is odd, eccentric, withdrawal from society, which includes paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypal personality disorder. Then we have cluster B, which is dramatic and attention-seeking, which is characterized by borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorder.
And then we have cluster C, where basically it's characterized by fear of social rejection, chronic anxiety, and difficulty handling relationships. And in this cluster, we have avoidant personality disorder, dependent personality disorder, and OCPD, which is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And so I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did because I love talking about personality disorders. And thank you for joining me and subscribe to our channel. We have also an Instagram account. It's SacTalkPod. We have X, and what else do we have? X, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.